briefly introduce yourself, talk about what your ASG experience has been, and just give a quick one-sentence statement on why you are running. And then we'll do the same with you two.
Thank you, Pat. Hello, my name is Aaron Poor.
And my name is Madeline, Owen.
I've been on student government for 2 years, freshman senator, sophomore senator, and I was the committee chair of the communications committee. This year, kind of an outsider, picked up Rough Riders.
And I was a sophomore senator, and I've served as a global engagement senator this year.
And we are running on a platform of community, sustainability, and snacks because we think that there's a lot of great community, a lot of good communication that we want to integrate to those community members, and a couple of really big ideas that may seem like a dream, may seem like a joke to talk about, but we believe that highlighting those and supporting those ideas are some of the greatest things that happen here in Santa Clara.
Thank you, Aaron. Madeline. Austin, Alana.
Hi, my name is Alana Hinkston. I'm currently a junior marketing communications double major with a minor in retail studies. I've been fortunate enough to spend all 3 years on ASG. I started off as freshman chair within community development. Last year I served as off-campus chair, and I'm the person who sends you the emails every week as I now serve as the vice president of public relations.
Hi, my name is Austin Smith. I'm a double econ poli-sci major with an emphasis in pre-law. I've also had the pleasure of serving on ASG for 3 years, first as the freshman associate justice and the last 2 as the chief justice.
Yes, so we're running based on the platform of getting back to the basics of the ABCs, basically building a foundation that we as a university can go forward from, and the ABC stands for
Awareness,
builds.
community.
Thank you both. All right. Let's start our first question with Alana and Austin, which is, what is the biggest issue facing our student body, and how will your platform work to address it? You have 2 minutes.
Awesome. So it goes right into our platform, Patrick. Thank you for asking that question. When we talk about community and what really goes into that, when we talk about the idea of sexual assault on campus and those numbers and the conversation that we're having around that on our campus and how we can better solve that and be very supportive on campus. I know Jack currently is working on things with that, but just continuing that conversation, as well as the ideas as touched on with the senators of diversity and really just having those voices that aren't heard as much heard. And that's just not talking about racial diversity. I know that's a normal admissions question when they ask about diversity, but really talking about the people who are on campus and who are transferring in, people who maybe this is their 3rd school in, people who are commuters, people who are coming from international and just all those different communities.
Yeah, and I think the other part of community is the idea of us all feeling a whole lot more welcome on campus in a whole lot of ways. I think one of the base foundation of that is just having more school spirit on campus. And us all feeling a little bit more proud about the university that we attend and the great things that we do all over campus, whether it's in the engineering school, in the business school, in the arts and sciences, whether it's on the field or on the court. I think school spirit in all of its manifestations is really important. It plays into that idea of having a strong and robust community.
And finally, just supporting one another, showing up to what each other is doing, finding out what each other is doing. Like tonight, it's great to see everyone supporting what ASG is doing and just continuing that with different departments and different clubs on campus.
Yeah, going off directly that, I couldn't agree more with what you guys were saying. We were saying that in between each other, almost exactly. Something that our platform is based off of that's really similar to this is community. And I think something that we can really work towards is creating a truly strong community. And not just being ASG, not just being a single CSO, working together to support each other's programs and create a more unified organization.
And to jump into that and talk about how we can tangibly affect some of that issue is communication is huge. And we have Facebook, ASG has a Facebook page, ASG has a Twitter page, ASG has a website that are all really cool and really well organized, but we don't get people checking it. We don't get people looking at it. And it comes to, I find myself like 15 minutes before an event being like, hey, like, time to actually think about this event. Like, let's see, are you free now? And people either realize, oh yeah, I did hear about that once, but now I want to like make a decision in a hot second if I can come or not. So I think that if we talk about a calendar, we talk about some of those organizational aspects that strengthen our general school community, and communication, I think, is such a fantastic and integral improvement that we can make next year.
And we do have resources now that we can use to take advantage of that. I think it's important that each student taps into that and really takes advantage of everything that we have here. And not just, like I said, within ASG, we're working with APD, we're working with SCAP and every CSO.
Go
And
Broncos.
RSO.
Awesome. On that particular note, we'll start with Aaron and Madeline. How will you combat over-programming on the Santa Clara campus? And do you have any ideas for how CSOs in particular can better collaborate? You have 2 minutes.
Heck yeah, Pat. I think what's really integral about ASG is that we do kind of serve as an umbrella organization, and we get to give funds to RSOs, and then there are CSOs that have their own budget, but we do have a role in facilitating that. What I think is so critical for communication and for over-programming is planning ahead. And it's something that I get to practice a lot, and it is really fun to kind of get in a 5-minute window and see what you can do. But being able to come in with a plan, be able to communicate equally with these new heads of the different programs and say, this is what we would like to do with you, let's hear your ideas, and be able to have that communication a month ahead, a year ahead of the actual program date is a hugely powerful way to make a really interesting and well-attended event.
Yeah, absolutely. And going off of that, I said this just a moment ago, but we are different CSOs, but we can work together. We can create programs together. If there was tension within ASG this year between different CSOs, and there's no reason that should be happening because we all have the greater goal of the students' interest in mind. So why not work together and create programs that we can all do together? And instead of having all these smaller programs going on campus, we can bring our resources together and have the best programs for the students.
Excellent. Alana, Austin?
Thank you. So I actually did a research report on over-programming at our school. Just between the CSOs and RSOs, there's about 2,000 programs per year. That doesn't include what housing and res life does. That doesn't include departments. That does not include our sporting events. That does not include our club events. And that's really what's kind of based on our platform too. Awareness builds community. When we first talk about awareness to really combat this over-programming, let's talk about a central calendar where people can look and see what's going on XYZ day. Oh, I see that you were doing a s'mores night. Why don't we work together? Because I wanted to do one for the same exact target market.
Yeah, and getting into build, one of the reasons that collaboration has been so difficult is that over the years, CSOs don't have great relationships with each other. And the relationships that they do have are really centered on the directors, the presidents, kind of the top level leadership, and none of those relationships actually filter down. And one of the essential part of our platform, the build, is to build those relationships with other CSOs and with RSOs too, the clubs, 180 clubs that we have on campus. So not only that we all know what's going on, but so that we have an open communication channel to make sure that we all are aware of what each other are doing and that we can work together to make sure that we're meeting the target markets that we want to hit in the most efficient way possible. There's finite resources and finite amount of your time, and we want to make sure that we're using those to the most efficient.
And finally, C, community, aka collaboration. We want to be able to work together not only with CSOs, RSOs, but reaching out to departments, the different sports teams, the club teams, housing and res life, because at the end of the day, we're trying to reach the same about 5,000 students. Why don't we all work together to try to reach those 5,000 students?
Madeline,
Yeah, and I just
30
want
seconds.
to touch on that once more. I think there were programs this year that were really effective in addressing that need. I think when we worked together with SCAP for Rainbow Prom, that ended up being a really successful event for everybody, and that was really exciting to partner with. And additionally, with Relay for Life, that's something that everyone's enthusiastic about, and I think those steps that have been laid are things that we can follow and learn off of for this upcoming year.
Alana, Austin.
And just to add on to that, I think something unique that our platform really can offer is that we have a lot of relationships across campus that we can leverage to help begin to build those policies and begin to build those relationships that will not only happen for next year, but to do long-lasting or longevity to last past when we're all graduated.
Thank you. starting with Aaron and Madeline. What will you do to build relationships with the neighboring community, given the recent tension between between them and the university? You have a minute and a half.
Thank you, Pat. One of the things that we did this last year on the communications committee, was talking about redirecting the focus from, oh, Santa Clara kids are partying recklessly off campus, to being able to promote a lot of the different organizations that do put something really good together out. Talking about culture shows, talking about drama department, talking about our sports team, talking about all these really cool events that happen and don't get a lot of publication, both on campus communication and off campus. So we put together the Join the Stampede stamp book, which had a bunch of partnerships with the drama department, a couple athletic games, a couple culture shows, and it was really exciting to see that. We didn't get the programming out in time, we didn't get some metrics from that, but doing that idea and being able to redirect the negative energy into a place where there is a bunch of positive energy, the different communities on campus, is what made it so exciting.
Yeah, and I think conversations that come from meetings like NERC really do help to create more of a connection with the community. I think while some of those are relatively negative, I think it's still really a learning opportunity for us to realize what the greatest community concerns are, and that helps us to change what it is that they see and help us to build the best community relations.
Alana, Austin.
So this really hits on the C and the D of dialogue of our platform. First of all, I think Frankie has done a great job of setting the foundations with working with Kim Gilkey to start a program where we'll basically have off-campus NRs or CFs in a sense to live off campus and to really talk to the neighbors. So I think just really working to expand that program and really be a presence with the off-campus community, going and greeting them and really saying hello, like not just being those students, but being Alana and Austin and Deja and Ivy and being names, not just people. And finally, I think Aaron Poor's idea of doing the stamp book last year was a brilliant idea. And I think continuing that to bring them all to campus to seeing all the awesome things that we are doing. And finally, D, just continuing to have a dialogue with the off-campus community to continue to have that conversation. Because I think that ordinance really kind of kicked us in the butt and really just kind of made us wake up and really just realize that yes, there are neighbors there and we need to continue to talk and dialogue with them. And I'm excited to see as that program rolls out, to see how we can continue to expand it.
Yeah, and I think something that Alana said was really good. Like, we need to increase our relationships with administration to make sure that we're all on the same page. Because as long as community members can't drive a wedge in between us and administration, we're going to be on a whole lot better ground. And so us playing as a unified front and making sure that we're on the same page and working together is really going to be in all of our interests.
Thank you both of you. Oh, Aaron,
We
you
get
have-
everybody? Yeah.
Yes, 30 seconds.
Well, I just wanted to touch on the NR program, because when I was talking to Kim, I think it was not being really applied for yet. So it's really cool. You get to live in like a single apartment off campus, and you don't have disciplinary enforcement like the CFs do. So I would recommend you check it out.
That goes off of our sustainability platform where we're trying to build long-lasting relations with the community.
Thank you. All right, starting with Alana and Austin. How will you deal with discriminatory off-campus parties? You have a minute and a half.
Hi, Patrick. Okay, I think really it just goes into the C and the D. I think first, recognizing what unites us together as a campus, us all being Broncos, us all being here on this campus, but also celebrating what makes us different and not celebrating in that type of way. I think really just educating one another about what makes us different, what makes us part of where our cultures come from. And finally, a D, dialogue. So talking about it, I think a lot of times when these happen, it's not on purpose. It's because there was not a conversation about it, and I don't think there was an education behind it to understand why.
Yeah, and I think there are two parts of the role that we can play. First of all, we need to be preventative. For next year, we're adding a diversity training into our UPP program, which is Educated Partier. I think that's a great idea to help kind of spread that e-education. But also, coming on the backside of it, when we know these things have happened, we need to make sure that we're addressing them and we're not letting them skate by, that people don't think that they can get away with this stuff. So we need to prevent it, but we also need to deal with it in the aftermath when it unfortunately happens.
I think I have some unique experience as I this year found myself as a host of a party that was deemed racially insensitive, and it was really incredible to see the community come out and really be aggressive and say we're not going to stand for this. This is incredibly intolerant, and then the conversation that we had from that was incredibly forthcoming and really successful because we got to have a conversation with some of my housemates who said, yeah, this wasn't our intent. Geez Louise, we're sorry that it was interpreted like this, and how can we make it a more inclusive event? So I think what's really important is getting the people who have these, getting the people who have diverse interests feeling powerful and feeling like they're in a comfortable place to say, I'm jazzed to stand up for what I believe in, I rock so much, and then be able to have the conversation when or if these problems do come up again and say, look, like, we really want to get to the bottom of this issue because, as I said, we rock really hard and we don't want to stand for this. Being able to not necessarily like punish the people, being able to understand the intent and being able to redirect that into a constructive conversation for our entire community that doesn't divide people, but brings it and makes it an inclusive space at Santa Clara, on and off campus.
It just goes down to making something that's relatively negative and finding the best way to create a positive solution for all students.
Thank you. Alana? You have
I'd just like to add one more thought. It kind of goes back into community collaboration. We have a great multicultural center. We have eBay representing tonight. Hi, my club. But honestly, I think us and us and MCC working together and working with Kim Gilkey in that program. So once again, building those relationships, building those structures that we can all use what each other's strengths are to be able to help build a better community and try to avoid this, but if not, educate.
Thank you. Aaron and Madeline, you're starting this one. So recently, there has been national coverage of sexual assaults on college campus, and the numbers, although drastically underreported, have continued to rise year by year at Santa Clara. What do you think ASG can do to address this issue in our community?
I absolutely think this is an issue that every student needs to know about and understand and have some sort of stake in, because it absolutely sickens me how many students this probably resonates with. And I just think that this conversation needs to be continued. I don't think we're talking about it enough. I don't think students are hearing about it early enough. I think we took programs out that should never have been taken out of freshman programs. I think you come onto campus and you're confused about situations and you're in a new environment, and you need to have an immediate awareness of what is right and what is wrong. And there's no reason that these conversations should not be happening within RLCs, within every single community that you're a part of. I think every single CSO and RSO could take the time to have a conversation on sexual assault because it's that important that we change something.
Powerful stuff. We still have a little bit of time, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's incredible. I mean, I think that the issue is something that's continuing to get more and more conversation on our campus, thanks to Jack in front and powerful statements like Madeline's. I think what this gets into me is, again, looking at the divide that we see when we talk about judicial reform and how some of our judicial policies can push students off campus and out of thinking about Santa Clara's values as something that supports them. And so when I talk about implementing more restorative justice practices, and when I talk like what I saw when I was on peer judicial board, it's really hard to get out of what's supposed to be an inclusive, like sanctioned ceremony without charging someone $50 at least. And I think that when we talk about judicial reform, it's a huge ability to bring some of these confused people, confused freshmen who don't know how to operate on a campus community and put really good leadership for them as role models.
Thank you. Alana, Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we totally agree that this is an incredibly important issue that we hope will be eradicated very quickly. And this is a national issue, and this is something that colleges across the country are dealing with. I think here at Santa Clara, we need to do a couple things. First of all, as Madeline kind of alluded to, we need to do a whole lot of education. And not only at orientation. I think kind of the university's general outlook on education is, if you learn about it at orientation, that's good enough, and we never need to talk to you about it again. That applies to a whole lot of things. But in reality, most people aren't paying attention and therefore never really learn what they need to learn and never remember it, past the next 3 months. We need not only education, but continued education. Second of all, we need to make really clear that this is something that will not be tolerated. And we need to make really clear what the university's expectations are, and more, quite frankly, what our expectations of our peers. We as students need to have a culture and a thought process that says this isn't okay, and we shouldn't rely solely on the school to enforce that policy, but rather us say to our peers that we see, in school or down the dorm hall that this is absolutely not okay.
And I think going off of that, just really working with Cal and their visibility, they have a lot of resources, but no one ever knows about the resources that they have. So really working with them and talking about that. In addition, working with Res Life, the CS, I personally work as an NR. The CS and the NRs are the first people on the lines, and I think one, giving them more training and training throughout the year, and also helping them, giving them the branding. I'm a marketing major, so that's where that comes from. The branding of feeling like being safe and welcoming. And finally, just us as a community being like, we can have this dialogue, and no, we're not going to shame you because this happened, but we want to help you. And I think coming across like that as a community.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to go off one more thing. In addition to freshman students, and something that Aaron and I are kind of building part of our platform off of is sustainability, and that reaches out to the off-campus community. I think a conversation needs to happen with the off-campus community, and this directly relates to that with sexual assault. We just need to make sure that every single part of our university is connected with this conversation.
Okay, thank you. So starting with Alana and Austin. You each have spoken a lot about bringing communities together through collaborations. And ASG has the unique duty of representing the voices of all students to the administration. How do you plan to initiate these collaborations and give representative voices to underrepresented communities such as the LGBT community, club sports, off-campus Greek life, and others? You have a minute and a half.
Awesome. So I think this really goes into our B of build of our platform, and really building those relationships with the people, not only the students who run that, because we will go through every year, but the administration, and finally building those policies, so we do have to continuously have those conversations and continue to have to see where each other can meet and where we can work together.
And I think the other part of that is, not only we need to build our, our leaders across the campus, not only internally at ASG, but leaders of all these communities. I think something that we don't do particularly well is ensuring that once seniors graduate, that there are people who are educated, people who are experienced who can replace them. And I think that applies to a whole bunch of, organizations across campus. And it's also really important that, all these organizations feel like they have a voice. Not only through ASG specifically, whether it's through Senate or through the Pres VP and through the rest of ASG in general, feeling like their voices are welcome and that they're being heard.
And I finally just encouraging not only like myself and Austin, but the rest of the ASG to go out and attend what all these different clubs are doing, and not only just hear about it, but see what's going on firsthand. Because a lot of times we don't know what's going on, how can we continue to work together and fix it. So us as an organization being more present within our community.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I think one of the biggest aspects of getting to know what's going on with the interests of another group is actively seeking out that group. And one thing that I asked my committee to do on Rough Riders was join another group, join a different community, RSO, CSO, somewhere else, so we can learn what's going on with them and what they want, and they can learn what's going on with us. And that touches back to community, touches back to sustainability, it touches back to snacks, because we got to learn about some really cool activities going on. I think two other things are really getting feedback for the program so we can know what we did well, how we can improve it, and implementing more feedback in student government and around the school is critical. And finally, celebrate those different groups, the successes that they have, the strengths that they uniquely bring to our school are all huge aspects that make these groups that kind of get pushed aside or not always heard really powerful and really get their impact around the whole school.
And additionally within that, I think within ASG, so many of our students are involved in other RSOs and CSOs. I don't think there should be a reason why the conversations that are happening outside of ASG in your separate RSOs and CSOs can be brought into the conversation within ASG. We can talk about what everybody is doing and maybe even attend separate meetings so that we have more cohesiveness within our CSO, RSO programs.
And just one thing I wanted to add, something about our ticket that's really unique is that I've been able to be involved across the university. CSO experience, RSO experience, Res Life experience, really close relationships with different communities such as the athlete community on campus, as well as Austin has very strong relationships with administration. So combining what we both have, we would be able to really build those structures and talk to the different organizations.
All right, this question is specifically for the president candidates, which is that as president, you have certain privileges with administration, not least of which is being the only student member on the board of trustees. How do you anticipate articulating the student voice in these settings?
I guess.
Yeah, you have a minute and a half.
Heck yeah. Well, first of all, it's really cool to be able to talk to the Board of Trustees. I know that for the last couple of years, I've had some crazier ideas that people have put down because it wouldn't fly with the trustees, because it wouldn't fly with our risk management department. And I think after a couple of years in summer camp and a couple of years of putting on events on campus, that we have a real opportunity to talk about risk management versus risk aversion. And when we have these diverse interests, how can we really exacerbate or exemplify some of these cool, maybe crazier ideas that go on around campus? I think I have had the opportunity to be in a lot of different organizations, go to a lot of different meetings around the school, and ultimately be personable at the Be Heard desk. Making a space where anyone can come up, lowering the barriers to having intimidation to people coming up and talking to you, handing out free ice cream, handing out, practicing awareness and advertising for games and different events on campus. Being available is the best way to get student input, and then being confident enough to go talk to the trustees based on my experience built at this school and before.
Thank you. Alana?
I think being the only student member on the Board of Trustees is such an honor. And I think something I really want to do is not only bring my personal opinion, but the opinion of the students. My job is not to talk for Alana D. Hinkston. My job is to talk for the students of Santa Clara University. And the way that I would do that is, one, just being present within our community. I've touched on that a bit, but just really showing up, having those interesting conversations. This past week campaigning, I've met so many different people and have heard so many different stories of cool things, such as 3D printing that senior design students are doing, or students who commute here from over an hour and a half away, and just being able to sit and listen to those stories, utilizing the resources that we have within ASG. Our job is to really get a pulse on the campus. So really utilizing our senators and having those conversations with them, finding out what each of our at-large senators, what their communities are talking about, what our freshman senators are talking about, talking with APB, seeing what they're seeing, talking with different RSOs, seeing what they're talking about.
Thank you. Starting with Alana and Austin. You each have varying levels of ASG experience. How will your past positions influence the way you will manage the organization if elected? Yes.
So I think something that's really cool about Alana and I take it is that we have experience from two different branches of ASG. So I've spent 3 years on the judicial branch, which has been a really, it's been a real honor and a really cool privilege because part of my job is to work with all of the other branches, with all of the personnel across the organization, and helping them do all the things that they need to do. So I have a whole lot of experience working with literally every position on ASG, which is really cool and really kind of unique to my job. And that's a really special honor. Also, I think just because I've literally written most of the structure of how ASG functions, I'm really attuned to how we can get the most efficient and most productive group together to bring the most benefits to students.
In addition, I've started on 2 different branches, on community development and on PR. With ComDev, I've been able to do a lot of event planning, which means a lot of leveraging relationships across campus, knowing how kind of the internal structure works, also kind of bringing in that RSO experience, knowing the difference between being a CSO and having funding. automatically from the school and RSO, and you're working from the ground up with your own resources and really having to make do with what you have. And finally, being in PR, I've had the interesting experience. It's twofold. I work both with the outer community, working to communicate things to you guys, as well as with our inner community, communicating out. And so I think just really understanding not only what's going on inside ASG, but also what's going on within our whole campus, which I can leverage as president.
Erin,
I think there are so many experiences that you can bring forward to help you in leadership positions, and that's something that I'd be really enthusiastic to do. Something that I'm personally super passionate about is international students. I think that's a big hole within our campus that we don't address enough, and something that I've been able to work with this past year on ASG. So working with the Global Engagement Office has been something that I realized we really need to address. And when you speak with them, it's the first thing that they want to do as well. So finding a way to incorporate international students on campus is something that I feel like we need to build off of as leaders within our community.
And then my experience on ASG was freshman year, I served on the Facilities and Operations Committee, and then last year I was in the Communications Committee as the chair. The Facilities and Operations Committee was cool because I got to see a lot of that basic structure within the university. I got to build some friends in operations, got to build some friends within ASG and kind of learn when you're talking about a program, who do you really need to talk to and get on board to implement something like that. As the comm committee, it was incredible to be able to just be in front of the student body on the quad, get a little bit of popsicles to hand out or something similar like that, and just hang out and see what the people were doing. So I think my experience has given me the ability to see the inner workings of the university and be able to connect with the student body, actively seeking out different people.
Awesome. Alana and Austin.
I think the other really special thing about our ticket is that we have 3 years of exec experience or cabinet experience, which means that, and that's really the group that runs the organization day to day. And having had 3 years of collective experience in that group has allowed us to see a whole lot of the things that the organization faces every day, and to have really close relationships with administrators all across the campus. And so using that experience is going to be to the best benefit of all the students.
Agreed, because the timer just went off.
Yeah, I think something that's really exciting in addition to Erin and my experience within AHG is our experience with other RSOs and CSOs on campus. So starting my own RSO has been something that I've realized could be something that I help with in the leadership experience. So going forward and helping RSOs and making sure they have traction within the community.
And I think being able to count some of the present and past ASG executives as our friends gives us a lot of good opportunity to connect with that executive board knowledge as we go into the
Thank you,
next
Erin.
year.
Erin and Madeline, if you are not elected, would you still be willing to serve on ASG, and what would you like to accomplish from another position? You have a minute.
That is a great question.
Yes, I did not apply for a position, so I would be happy to do it if it came before me, but ultimately I think I would pursue some of the school spirit initiatives that I've been working on this year and trying to build our community even stronger around Go Broncos.
And something that I think is really exciting about AHG is that there are so many opportunities within it, even if you're not a part of AHG. So there's so much conversation that goes on within AHG and the greater community that they could really implement through your suggestions. So I probably continue working with the international office and work with my national service organization, but also want to additionally work with AHG.
Thank you. Austin, Alana.
So yes, if we do not win, which we don't hope is the case, but what happens, happens. I reapplied again to be PR VP. I feel as though I've set a lot of foundations for things to grow, just really understanding university better and how I can better flex in it per se. My position, really just working one to build out our website, which kind of fits under the awareness. Two, working on ways to better communicate events that are happening to students. I mean, I have questions from administration all the time that say, how do you advertise to students? And I say, we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, and I applied to be Chief Justice for a third year. I think that's a really cool opportunity, something I definitely would continue to work on no matter what, is to bring an honor code to the campus. It's a project I've run for the last years and been a part of for the last 3. So irrespective of what position I have, that's something I'll continue to do to make sure that the system that we have best represents students and best works for students.
Thank you. Austin and Alana. Sorry. So, here we go. Student apathy is often regarded as a significant problem on our campus. What can ASG do to address this issue and get students more engaged in our community? You have a minute and a half.
So I think this plays directly into our awareness. First of all, to be involved, people need to know what's going on. And so we need to make it a whole lot easier for students to understand what all of these groups are doing across campus. That starts with a Santa Calendar. It starts with making our website a one-stop shop, a place where students can go and know that they can find all this information. So, in the current system, it's so hard to figure out what's going on. You've got to really, really try to figure out what this club is doing this week, or even this CSO is doing this month. And so making that process a whole lot easier would bring a whole lot less out.
Yeah, and I think just being a community, a lot of times we function as I am Alana and I'm going to do what Alana wants to do, and then that's Deja and Deja's going to do what Deja's going to do. But instead, we need to see that we are a community. What are we going to do together? How can we come together to really best put on this event? How can we best come together to support what each other is doing? And I think that comes with putting faces to one another, not just being the kid who sits across the room in my calm 150 class, but being the person with the face and a name who really loves on weekends to go out and crochet or surf. I do like to crochet though. Do different things and just being really engaged to this person.
Critical question, Pat. I do think that apathy is prevalent. We saw yesterday at our Not Your Average Career Night, we got really cool 6 people to come. But I think that with a bunch of work going into it, with some awesome mocktails and snacks like that, it's really cool to see the work get in, and it's really a shame to see it not well attended. I think the central calendar is huge. One thing that I've had the opportunity to work on is a mobile app called Act On. I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but we're number 2 in the App Store right now. What it is you can put on organizations, events, then they can easily go straight into your mobile phone calendar. You can easily email people. And some of those things are really exciting. I think as president, it would be powerful to implement that in school and use my position to help give a tangible product to the students to help them get more engaged.
Yeah, and I think it goes along with a lot of the conversation that we've already had of streamlining our programs and working together to make sure that students aren't overwhelmed by all the organizations that are hosting different events and coming together to enjoy the events that you want to go to. I don't think students are so busy. Everybody is busy, and so I think it's really important that we don't overwhelm, but we still make this community as enjoyable as possible.
Thank you. So we'll move into our last question with that, starting with Aaron and Madeline. Speaking of the partnership as president and vice presidential candidates in the way that you work together, and also to your specific ideas as part of your platform, what makes you the most qualified ticket?
Can I start? Is that all right?
Please.
Okay, because I have thought about this question so many times. I think a lot of you in this community would say that we are slightly a goofy pair. And I wouldn't probably be wrong, because, little goofy. But we have so much fun together, and we have so much fun in these leadership positions, because it's what we love to do. This is what we're passionate about, because we love Santa Clara. He doesn't say go Broncos every other sentence because he hates Santa Clara. We love this place, and that is so fun to be a part of. I loved working with him because we get stuff done. We do. We stay until 2, we talk through different programs and platforms and ideas and really come together on what it is we're excited about. And that's so fun to be a part of it. So leading in that way, leading with loving something and leading with passion first, that's why we're here, Every single person is passionate about something, and we want to help you find your passions. And we want to do that through our passion. So I think that is so thrilling to be a part of.
First of all, go Broncos. Seriously, Madeline has been a rock and a support for me for the last 2 years, and even farther than that, spiritually. Think about it. Sometimes I get a little up here with some of my ideas about opening the observatory, about how we're going to build a campaign to run for president, and to hear her say, Aaron, this is what I just heard you say, and have it sound so clear and so easily presentable and so powerful, just makes me think that this girl has some sort of magical power, or at least a very good set of ears and a smart brain. She is such a rock star, and it's been so fun to get to know her more on the campaign trail over the last 2 years, building the Stampede Stamp Book, being at the Be Heard desk. She rocks my socks off, and that's why I sometimes wear flip-flops.
Awesome. So when you talk about Austin, I think what we each bring to the table, we can both use to leverage with one another. I bring a very broad experience across campus with very broad relationships, and very broad different people that I've been able to communicate. Like I said, RSO experience, Res Life experience, new student programs experience, leaving school business experience. There's a lot in there. But in addition, the way we just work together, I'm really kind of like, if you see me when I'm not wearing the suit thing, I'm really chill, I promise. And I'm really funny, and I like to be quirky, and I'm the one who makes him smile when we're in the office. And I think by no, not like that though. I'm sorry, that's a quirkiness. But I think vice versa, he really helps balance me out and kind of brings me back to the focus of what's going on. I think that's something that really is unique about our partnership.
Yeah, and I think, one of the cool things is, we're very together on the issues. Like, we think about the end result very similarly, but we think about the way to get there very differently. Alana's kind of focus is big ideas and, how we use ideas to represent students best. My strength is policy. My strength is the minutia. And so, building, combining that strength of having great ideas and then the way to actually implement and put it into words to get it through administration and into actual policy is something that makes us really special.
And I think we've been working together really more closely this year, but especially in our last 3 years together. And I think the way that we go about it right now, we're trying to double team on the chalkboard in Vincent. So if someone asks you about that, tell them that we want it to be a central calendar. But really just working together to leverage each other's strengths, like we come like bad cop, good cop, And I think we can really be able to leverage that with administration and with students.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move into your closing comments. So you each ticket will have a minute to
Each
close
pair
this
is a
out.
minute?
Each pair will have, each ticket will have. But we'll start with Alana and Austin.
So I'm gonna just say a little song for you guys because I've been preparing this all day and I wanted a chance to say it. Okay, ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. Do, re, mi, ABC, awareness builds community. I think something that Austin and I really bring together is our platform of back to the basics and awareness builds community. And I mean, that's just representative of all the different ideas that we talked about tonight. Quick shout out to Eway for coming out as well, building that community with us. But I think something we really do is leverage our relationships across campus, both with admin and with students, to really help. It's not what we want to do, but it's what we want to do. It's what we want to do in the dialogue that we want to have. And we really want your guys' help to help us finish the alphabet. We're awareness builds community with a dialogue that includes everyone, and we need you to help us finish it. So that next year in June 2016, we can all come together and figure out what Z is.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming out. It has been incredible tonight of great questioning, great talking with everybody. Certainly, I guess my concluding statement would be go Broncos, but before that, I gotta say, after 3 years of being in student leadership positions, especially the tone when we're talking about how we can affect serious change can be fun. We can have fun and we can still accomplish serious things. And I think that that's a lesson that's not always communicated, but it's something that I sure have to like.
And it's so fun to be in the running to represent this student body. I think there are 2 people that love Santa Clara more. That's not true. We all love Santa Clara. But that being said, I honestly think it would be such an honor to represent every single student as vice president of this university. And that just gets me jazzed. So thanks again so much.
Community, sustainability, snacks, go Broncos.